Ever wonder what things would be like if Yuji Itadori never ate Sukuna's finger, yet having a power far more sinister and limit? Well, I'm Crowned Fiend, and I'll be covering just that in What If Itadori Had the 9 Tails. I'm not going to waste any more of your time. With that out of the way, let's begin this story.
Insomnia.
Long ago, in ancient time, the people of Japan would worship a single fox at the shrine. The people would come to call him their guardian deity. However, as the appearance of curses, along with the disappearance of people across the land, led the praise turning to hatred, the citizens then hunted the fox, who crawled back to the shrine. The shrine keepers ran out to grab the fox, saying, "You can't die," over and over again, cursing the fox to live on, as he came back to life as a curse. Over the years, the fox would be called a demon, growing in size from feeding on the people's hatred and fear of him. As the centuries passed, the fox sprouted out more and more tails until he reached 9 tails altogether. The shrine keepers would always take care of the fox, making offerings to him along the way, with sacrifices for his favor. Eventually, the Jujutsu sorcerers had determined to eliminate the fox, deeming it as an above special grade threat to the public. Fearing who they would send, the shrine keepers would strike a deal with the fox, sealing him inside the body of a child. However, the fox hated the idea and demanded sacrifices. The shrine keepers promised. The fox still refused and killed the shrine keepers. The keepers decided to seal the fox while it slept. That night, the plan was put into action, and the child was placed at an altar. While the shrine keepers began their prayer and the sealing began, the fox awoke and began his onslaught of the keepers. The last of the keepers were only 3 standing, which were a father, a son, and a daughter-in-law. The fox began to tire, and so the son used a technique that would seal the fox at the price of 2 sacrifices. The son then sacrificed his wife and himself to seal the fox into the child. That child was you, Yuji. There's no way that's true, right, Gramps? A young Itadori would say. However, his grandfather would show Itadori the wounds from the battle, as well as pictures of his father and mother at the shrine. Itadori, having the evidence in his face, would have no other choice but to believe it. This would cause Itadori to distance himself from people at school, thinking that his insane physical strength and durability was due to the fox. Itadori would be on his way home one day to find a man with blonde hair in a white suit beside his grandfather's bed. The man would look at Itadori, saying that his grandfather doesn't have long for this world. The wounds have cut his lifespan down significantly. Itadori would be introduced to the man by his grandfather, saying, "This is Kento Nanami. He'll be taking care of you. From now on, he's an ex-Jujutsu sorcerer. He'll help you harness the power of the fox. Use that power to save, and maybe you'll be able to save the fox's spirit. It was cursed spirits that led to the people turning against the fox. He's not a bad person. Just be careful though. Don't trust him too willingly, or he'll consume your soul and take your body." Itadori would agree to his grandfather's last wish, as his grandfather dies right before his eyes. Itadori, being only 10 years old, would begin to cry uncontrollably. His last family member is now dead. Nanami would then adopt Itadori in the coming weeks and begin training him as a Jujutsu sorcerer, with Itadori taking on a personality of being a lot more serious and driven, along with having a darker side to him, but it only shows when he's around curses. At school, Itadori is preparing for his transfer to Jujutsu Tech, being accepted on Nanami's recommendation. Itadori definitely thinks of Nanami as his father, since he's the father figure he needed in his life to give him more of a grounding in dealing with the trauma that Itadori went through with losing his entire family. However, the night before the transfer, Itadori was invited to join the occult club and opening up a creepy object. However, they didn't show it to Itadori, so he thinks there's nothing much to it. However, on his way to the school, he runs into a weird looking guy that's been following him. That man introduces himself as Megumi Fushiguro, who is hunting the object and ends up showing Itadori a picture of it. Itadori's blood goes cold, saying that might be the object my friends are going to open tonight. Megumi and Itadori would both run at top speeds to the school, with Megumi barely being able to keep up as Itadori is channeling cursed energy throughout his body, causing him to get faster and faster as he rushes into the building, seeing the cursed spirit practically eating his friends alive. Itadori has had enough of curses, taking everything away from him. His hatred causes his cursed energy to expand and flood all over the school as Itadori casts a veil to conceal himself as the cursed spirit tries to attack Itadori before being ripped apart in an instant. Then Itadori sees it, the finger of Sukuna. When Kurama sees it, he explodes in anger, knowing who it belonged to. Exploding with anger, Kurama overwhelms Itadori with his cursed energy, which would cause Itadori's eyes to go red with a black slit in them. His nails would sharpen and grow as his teeth became more like fangs. As a red cloak surrounded his body, Itadori's mind goes blank as Kurama is in control, as he lets out a huge yell that destroys the veil and shatters all of the windows as well. Megumi is terrified, but he knows what he has to do. Calling out his two dogs, Megumi rushes at Itadori to try to get Sukuna's finger, thinking that Itadori might eat it. However, that ends up being a bad call as Itadori's friends are lying on the ground as the two dogs attack Itadori, only for them to be sent through the floor, causing a collapse as Itadori's friends would fall in, being crushed to death by the debris. Megumi is in horror, seeing one of his dogs completely killed and the other one severely wounded. Fushiguro calls out Nue to try and gain the advantage. However, the cloak extends itself, grabbing Megumi before slamming him to the ground. However, before the killing blow can be delivered, Gojo arrives, punching Itadori, sending him straight through a wall. "Where the hell were you, Gojo?" Megumi would ask. Then handing a bag to Megumi, Gojo would say he went souvenir shopping. However, before the conversation could continue, Itadori rises up from the rubble, holding Sukuna's finger. Gojo is worried about what could happen. However, to his shock, the finger burns away to ashes. Kurama would calm down slightly, just a little, but seeing Gojo still pisses off Kurama as Itadori rushes at Gojo, clapping his hands together, saying curse technique, Demon's Claw, which caused Kurama's arms to materialize in the world, grabbing Gojo as Itadori begins pummeling him with punch after punch, landing them into Gojo's stomach, which actually end up hurting Gojo. However, Gojo then breaks free and shows off one of his eyes, then blitzing Itadori, causing him to get more and more angrier, forming four tails as Itadori's skin starts to peel off, as he forms into what can only be described as a smaller version of a demon fox. Gojo knows he has to end this now before things get too far out of control. Nanami, however, can feel Itadori's cursed energy and begins to run to the school, getting there to see Itadori being consumed by the fox. "Yuji, stop this now!" Nanami yells as Itadori would see Nanami and say, "Dad," before Gojo hit him with a reversal red, which ended up knocking Itadori out. As Kurama subsided, when Itadori awakens, he's in a room full of seals, chained to a chair, as he sees Nanami and Gojo. "What happened? Where am I?" Itadori would ask. Gojo would explain everything that happened last night, saying that Itadori was amazing. Itadori would look at Nanami and ask what happened to his friends. Nanami would just shake his head. "You ended up killing them when you lost control," Gojo said, breaking the news that Itadori has been sentenced to death as well. Nanami was holding himself back, as Gojo said that they managed to get it delayed, however, it's not cancelled. "You do have a few options though. You can learn to control your power and use it to save people and destroy the rest of Sukuna's fingers, or you can die right here and right now by my hand." Nanami tells Gojo to step outside for a minute, as he needs a moment with his son. Gojo accepts as he steps outside the door, and Nanami loses it, breaking down, seeing the little boy he raised now sentenced to death. It's too much for him to handle. Itadori then says that he'll become a sorcerer, like his father. Once Itadori is sent to the principal, Nanami grabs Gojo by the collar, saying that this is all Gojo's fault. If only he took his duties more seriously. If he had any type of concept of responsibility, this never would have happened. Nanami tells Gojo that he will never forgive him, and punches Gojo straight in the face, knocking his glasses off, shattering them, before walking off. Itadori then meets with the principal, who then asks him why he wants to be a sorcerer. Itadori says that he wants to eliminate as many curses as possible and save people so that they may die a decent death. The principal say that's a good enough reason. Itadori is accepted into Jujutsu Tech, where he is shown to his dorm by Nanami, who puts him in the same building as Megumi. However, he tells Itadori that he may choose any room that isn't already taken. Itadori then thanks Nanami and tells him that he's sure everything will work out for the best. Nanami just nods, still not fully over the fact of Itadori being sentenced to death. Itadori then goes through looking at the rooms and ends up picking one on the opposite side of Megumi. That's when Megumi would walk over and apologize to Itadori, as he feels somewhat responsible for what happened to Itadori's friends and Itadori himself. Don't worry about it. What happened to them was my fault. Their blood is on my hands. My current situation is also my fault. I have to live with it, and I'll never forget it, Itadori says. From there, Itadori apologizes to Megumi for attacking him. The two of them get to know each other, and they actually get along very well. The next day, Itadori would get his uniform. However, it was altered to have a hood on it, and instead of the color being red, it is now blue. Gojo then formally introduces himself, saying that he's their teacher, and that they'll be going on a little bit of a field trip to get their final teammate, which they meet as Nobara. She immediately looks at Megumi and says that if he wasn't so gloomy, he'd be pretty close to her type. Then she looks at Itadori, saying that he's got good looks, not too overly positive and optimistic, nor too negative. Nobara says that he's perfect to herself. She begins to kind of flirt with Itadori, who just asks Gojo if that was all. Nobara feels kind of rejected, and Gojo says, not quite, we have one more stop to make. They then find themselves at this abandoned building, where Gojo says that Itadori and Nobara need to prove themselves to the team, as he tells Itadori to keep it under control and to not let the fox out. Itadori says, yeah, I know, as he begins to walk towards the building, putting on glasses which were similar to Nanami. Itadori and Nobara enter the building and search room by room and floor by floor, while Nobara tries to get Itadori to engage with her or even talk to her about anything other than the mission. Itadori would see the kid and rush in, noticing that the curse appeared right behind him, and before Nobara could even move, Itadori killed it with curse technique Divergent Incineration, which is where Itadori punches the curse and the cursed energy lags a bit behind, and once the curse hits, it's immediately followed by another wave of cursed energy that incinerates the cursed spirit. Nobara is extremely impressed with Itadori as they exit the building. With the job being completed, Gojo tells them great job. The group returns back home, and actually all of them bond together fairly well, which is when they learn that Nanami is Itadori's father, and Yuji tells them stories about him and his dad. The next few days pass, and they're brought to a juvenile detention center, where they're at the entrance and see a woman pleading to know if her son is okay. Itadori freezes, seeing himself and his grandfather and that woman. Walking up to her, she tells her that they'll try to find her son. As they walk into the building, Megumi would say that he shouldn't make promises like that, considering that there's no guarantee that we can even do that. Itadori says that it's something he'll do. They don't have to worry about it. Just then, they come across dead bodies as Itadori goes and checks on each and every one of them, eventually finding out that one of these bodies is the woman's son. While Itadori got the name tag of, he looked back to see Nobara had disappeared. Megumi would be wondering where she went, as Itadori could sense it pushing Megumi out of the way before he was hurt by one of of the special grade curses. Itadori would hand the name tag to Megami, telling him to find a way out while he handles the special grade. Megami tries to argue before Itadori slaps him across the face, telling him that there's no point in two people dying here, as Itadori throws his jacket off, cracking his knuckles, walking toward the special grade. As the fight begins, Megami runs towards the exit looking for Nobara. Itadori would use Curse Technique Demon's Claw to keep the special grade on the defensive. However, it wouldn't last for long, as Itadori was starting to lose ground. He needed more power, more cursed energy. However, the Ninetales was not letting him have it. Itadori was sent flying into the wall as he started coughing up blood, knowing that he had no chance of winning, but he had one shot to end this in a draw. Itadori would collect all the cursed energy he could before using Cursed Technique, Ninetales Execution. One tail after another would tear up from the ground until all 9 surrounded Itadori and the special grade as cursed energy flowed through each tail, creating a huge barrier cage, as from the tips of the tails charged up a huge amount of cursed energy that dropped down, exploding, which completely incinerated the special grade and severely burned Itadori on his arms and chest as he dropped to the floor. Before losing consciousness, however, the last thing he saw was someone picking up one of Sukuna's fingers and walking away. That's where I'm going to be leaving this one off. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and sorry for the delay, as this was way more of a prototype, as I've never done anything like this, and with more JJK what ifs on the way, I promise that each one will be better than the last. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. Peace.